What's going on, y'all? So, I thought I'd do a quick knife sharpening video. And let's talk a little bit about the best way to sharpen a knife. Can you have a knife that's too sharp? Spoiler alert, yes you can. This is my preferred knife sharpener. It is the Chef's Choice Model 130. Now the knives that I make, I actually don't sharpen on this. I sharpen on a 15, a Model 15. There's some other letters in there, XV15 or something like that. But basically what it means is this is a 20 degree sharpener. The Model 15 is a 15 degree sharpener. Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about the angle. Let's take a look down a blade. So we have two edges that'll slightly taper down to a bevel. This angle right here is the angle that we're talking about, either 20 degrees or 15 degrees. So let's say that's a 20 degree, and this is obviously not to scale. This is going to be very exaggerated to prove the point. But so let's say that's a 20 degree and that's a 15 degree. So we have a much steeper angle on the 15 degree than we do the 20 degree. 20 degrees blunter. And even to go a step further, but there is a 30 degree, okay? So this 15 degree, let's cross that out. This is 20 degree, that's 30 degree. So a cleaver would be a good example of a 30 degree. A pocket knife a lot of times can go 30 degrees, something that's really going to need to take a lot of abuse. And basically, the longer and pointier the tip is, the more susceptible it is to damage and dulling. A 30 degree is going to last a long time under heavy use, whereas a 15 degree is going to need sharpening a lot more. 20 degree is right in the middle. Like I said, this is what I use for my personal knives, is 20 degree. And very, very easy to make a 20 degree knife out of a 15 degree. Or a 30 degree out of a 15 degree. It's easier to go this way than it is this way. If we wanted to make this 30 degree 15 degrees, we would have to grind all of this metal out. Versus if we wanted to make a 15 degree a 30 degree, we simply grind a point that'll come right here. And this little bit of metal off each side comes off very, very quickly on the tip. Let's talk about how to use this knife sharpener. So this is the reason why I like this so much is it strops, it deburrs, and it grinds with a diamond blade, which is very important for hardened steel. It doesn't make as much dust as stone, and it lasts longer. Let's talk about how to use it real quick. Really simple. Let's take this chef's knife and we'll run through it. I'm going to take this knife steel, a couple swipes like that, and now it's got no edge at all. It's not sharp. We're going to try to get as far up on the blade as possible. Like this fillet knife, you can't get all the way up because of the guard, so you're going to start in here. Not a big deal, but just be aware of that. And we just pull through slowly. Now, if you have a really sharp knife, probably are all you need right there. And what we're feeling for is a burr. We're not there yet. Okay, now we're starting to get a burr. So we have a burr up here, it goes away, burr, goes away a little bit, and then a good burr. And what I mean by a burr is you can feel your finger catch like a little tiny lip as it goes down. And I'm going to show you guys here in a second. Now we have a good burr all the way down. So, and I like to grind on paper towel. You can see, maybe you can't see, but little grit and dust and stuff. Basically what we've done, let's put our knife blade back on here again. We're grinding this edge and then this edge. When we grind it, we're actually pushing little fingers over. If we looked at it, if we took this and turned it, okay, turned it like this, and then we looked at that blade under a microscope, we would see these fingers coming down from the blade, and they have folded over here in the grinding process. And we're looking for that burr all the way down the blade because we know that we have ground all the way to the tip. If we miss a spot, we're probably grinding up here somewhere, not making it to the tip. Okay? Hope that makes sense. So now we have this burr. Let's work on getting rid of it. So this is the same thing that I just dulled the knife with, which is a sharpening steel. And this is how you use a sharpening steel. This one is double grit, so it's fine and coarse. And this works really good for keeping up with your knives as you're cutting. See, now we don't have any burr at all, okay? And it's pretty sharp. Same thing here. It just holds the angle for you. Basically, what we've done, let me back up here. What we've done is that steel, what it's doing is these little fingers that are coming off, it's taken and folding them this way, and then this way, and then this way, and then this way. Just like bending a paper clip back and forth, it'll eventually break. So if you do this enough, back and forth, you break this off. And then you're left with a normal V with no burr. If we take the knife, it's like this, and we turn it, and we look at it, we broke off most of those fingers. However, we still end up with something like this under a microscope down the blade. Oh, I wrote on my counter. That was good, Kyle. It's not smooth. If we were to zoom in on the edges, these would follow the grind marks up into the blade from the grinding wheel, like sandpaper grit, right? The next step is a stropping wheel. Typically, these are leather. This is just like you would see the old-time barbershops use. So what that's going to do is it's going to polish all these grinding lines out and leave you with a nice smooth blade. So again, if you zoomed in on a microscope, there would still be little lines in here because, I mean, it is still abrasive, okay? But you're not left with these coarse grit lines that would come like sandpaper. This is a polishing effect. So let's do that. Let me show you that. And same thing as before, just pulling it through nice and slowly. Okay, now what we're left with, wipe off this grit, should be a knife that's very sharp, and it is. Let's go slow, see if we feel any spots. Oh, a little bit right here, okay? So let's repeat the process, and I'm going to slow down right in here. Okay, now I'm going to do through each side to make it even. And get rid of that burr that we've created. Maybe just a few times through this and you're good. And the stropping wheel will take it off too. You just have to do some extra strops. That's perfect. Okay, no hesitation there. That is a super sharp knife. Now, let's talk about this polishing, right? So if you look at it, it is little, right? If you zoom way, way, way in, it's not this coarse grit, but it is still leaving lines in it because the wheel like pretend this is this wheel here, okay, is running down and it's leaving just little lines. So one thing you can do is go faster at the end. So we take and we go like this. Now we're cutting in two planes. Sharpening in two planes. So now, not only is the wheel going like this, but we're also dragging the knife this way. And it's going to make these lines even finer and angled, okay? If that makes sense. So it'll be really fine and angled like this, which gives it even that next little bit of sharpness. So, sharp knives are great, right? Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. Can you have a knife that is too sharp? Yes, you can. It all depends on what you are cutting. This knife is very sharp right now. This would be perfect for doing tuna sushi, real thin slices like sashimi, right? This would be great if you bought a whole beef tenderloin and you wanted to cut your own filet mignons. This is not good for following a line. What do I mean by following a line? Most cutting a meat, you are following some kind of line. You might be following rib bones down in a fish. Another thing would be filleting a fish and you want to skin it. You want to get that line between the skin and the meat, the fillet, and you want to run right down it. If you have a knife that's too sharp, it's very, very, very difficult to feel that line. The knife will just go right through the skin or start cutting into the bone, the rib bone in that example. So a lot of times a super fine, polished blade is not what you want. So how do we get a knife that is sharp, but you could still feel it's not ridiculously sharp to cut through? And that's where we leave it at this stage right here. So we stop at number 2. That'll leave you a very sharp knife. It won't pass the paper test. It won't cut paper. So it just depends on what you're doing and how sharp you like your knife. I mean, it's all personal preference. Do what makes you happy. If you like a super sharp knife and you feel comfortable filleting fish and doing everything with it, by all means do it. That's how you sharpen, using the Chef's Choice Model 130. This is, again, 20 degree, my preferred blade angle. Do what makes you happy. If you want to go 30 degree, you want to go 15 degree for super sharp, whatever. Hopefully this covers a little bit about sharpening knives and the way I do it. Thanks you guys for watching.